certainly gateways were opened in 1946, gateways were opened in 1917, 16, 17, that had brought influence. And whether the government was in conspiracy with that, I mean, I do believe that resulted in abductions and a lot of things that you have out there in sort of ufology. That is probably just too much of it just to say that it's just made up. That doesn't mean everything is true, but we need to discern what is true. Now, the key in all of this is the sons of God can overcome and rule in spite of all that man is trying to do and all the external influence that there might have been. We can still, as sons of God, be far above that and administrate the kingdom to ensure that the purpose for that never gets fulfilled. Now, the purpose for God is the kingdom of God fills the earth. In fact, the heavenly kingdom is manifested on earth. The opposite is true, that the enemy wants to have his kingdom on earth. I mean, he wants man worshiping him. And you get Jesus talking about the sons of the kingdom sown into the world and the sons of the enemy sown into the world. And Jesus talked about that, and you can say, well, what is that? Well, there may be all sorts of different levels of that, which we think, but the key is we mustn't get frightened or intimidated by things that are going on. Yes, there may be all sorts of technology, transhuman methodologies and agendas to manipulate the human DNA or to pollute the human DNA or do all sorts of things that would keep us from our sonship. But don't just assume everything that you hear or see on the internet is true. We must discern what is and what isn't, and what is mixed and what is shared from a particular agenda, which may not be true. So we've got to be discerning in all of it. And the best way of being discerning is to engage it from the Father's heart. And Jesus, as being the truth, can help us discern what is true and what may be some truth and what be a little truth and what is no truth at all, but is presented as truth. And we've got to be very careful we don't buy into everything. And I sort of do look at quite a lot of this to try and look at, well, what is true? And I find most of it has a grain of truth, but actually is presented in such a way that twists that truth or masks or hides the truth beyond a lot of things. So the enemy still has the same agenda. It's a Luciferian agenda that is the I will agenda. I will be like God. I will ascend. I will be seated in heaven. Effectively, I will have the man worship me. Well, Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil and that methodology has done pretty well in getting people to follow that path of independence, I will, and then outworking that I will agenda through we will or we can and humanism. It only takes a little bit to go to transhumanism. Well, we can enhance our human thing ourselves by nanotechnology or implants or whatever it might be that people are attempting to do to prolong life. Essentially, they're only trying to do what Jesus has already said is ours by inheritance, immortality. So the whole agenda is just a counterfeit of what God has given us in the first place. And Jesus has given us. So we're trying to do what we've already got. And that's the biggest deception that there is. Man trying to be like God when he already is like God as sons of God. But we're doing it in independence with our own methodology, and the method is not right. And the independence is not right.